Lots of Tesla stock news today. There's a story that says that Elon Musk wanted to spy on Tesla drivers. But first, very quickly, thanks to a YouTuber who ran across two Cybertruck prototypes testing on an off-road trail, we now know that Tesla is internally targeting October to hand over the first Cybertrucks to customers. Here's that YouTuber, and even though he said that he's not going to buy a Cybertruck, he pointed out that it looks better in person than in pictures. Musk wanted to use Tesla cameras to spy on drivers and win autopilot lawsuits. That's quite attention-grabbing. We know that Tesla uses these cameras to monitor its drivers when they turn on full self-driving, for example. And eventually the plan was to use these cameras when these vehicles are converted to robotaxis. But that wasn't the only thing Tesla wanted to use the cameras for. According to the biography, Musk pushed internally to use the camera to record clips of Tesla drivers initially without their knowledge, with the goal of using this footage to defend the company in the event of investigations into the behavior of its autopilot system. Musk was convinced that bad drivers rather than bad software were the main reason for most of the accidents. At one meeting, he suggested using data collected from the car's cameras, one of which is inside the car and focus on the driver, to prove when there was driver error. One of the women at the table pushed back. "We went back and forth with the privacy team about that," she said. "We cannot associate the selfie streams to a specific vehicle, even when there is a crash, or at least that's the guidance from our lawyers." Despite Tesla's insistence that drivers still pay attention, a study has shown that driver attention does decrease with the system activated. For me personally, I may be a little bit more relaxed, but I'm still paying a lot of attention. Regardless of whether there is any reason to believe that it was activated, media reports or social media will often focus on autopilot, leading to an often unfair public perception that there is a connection between autopilot and crashing. But in many of these cases, autopilot eventually gets exonerated when the incident is investigated by authorities. Oftentimes, it's a simple matter of the driver not using the system properly or relying on it where they should not. These exonerations often include investigations where vehicle logs are pulled to show whether autopilot was activated, how often it had to remind the driver to pay attention, what speed the car was driving, and so on. Cameras could add another data point to those investigations. I remember this one incident where the driver was reminded something like over 100 times to pay attention. That was because the driver was drunk. But even if Tesla gets exonerated, think about all of the damage that is caused in the meantime. Think about some people that have been canceled, and let's say they are accused, you raped this woman, and the woman comes out, and then another comes out, and then another comes out, and then 5 years later, everyone finds out these women lied, let's say. The guy had his career canceled, his career is over, he's not making nowhere near as much money, he went through years of torture. Also, many people won't really see the correction. Oh yeah, actually, these women lied, and the guy was telling the truth this whole time. I'm just using that as a hypothetical example. But of course, damage is done, especially with all the media being so heavily against Tesla. If they run, let's say, 10 stories per outlet about this one bad thing that happened, and they only put a little tiny snippet, maybe let's say one paragraph in the next story about Tesla, where they don't even talk about that specific crash, but you just say, oh, by the way, 5 years ago, we made a mistake here, so actually, it's all good. This does not really fully exonerate Tesla. It's like punching someone in the nose, and then you just say, oh, sorry, that was by accident. Sorry is enough, right? But then Musk goes on to suggest that not only are these accidents generally the fault of the drivers, but that he wants cabin cameras to be used to spy on drivers with the specific purpose of wanting to win lawsuits or investigations brought against Tesla, such as the NISA probe. Not to enhance safety, not to collect data to improve the system, but to protect Tesla and his ego. To win. So wanting to protect yourself against slander from the media that's non-stop, where you don't actually get exonerated, where you just get a little sentence somewhere written in a hidden article very far away from where anyone could really easily see it. that's supposedly just to protect his ego and just to win for the sake of winning. I usually find articles from Electric to be fairly good, but this one I think is a bit more subjective. Just to be clear, obviously I'm not supporting Elon trying to record people without their consent. I'm not supporting that, but I'm just saying that this article is not fully objective. In addition to this adversarial stance against his customers, the passage suggests that his initial idea was to collect this info without informing the driver, with the idea of adding a data privacy pop-up only coming later in the discussion. Okay, well, let's see what happened here. Musk was not happy. The concept of privacy teams did not warm his heart. I am the decision maker at this company, not the privacy team. Well, I mean, he's right. So far, I don't even know who they are, the privacy team. They are so private, you never know who they are. That's definitely something that Elon would say. There were some nervous laughs. Perhaps we can have a pop-up where we tell people that if they use FSD, we will collect data in the event of a crash, he suggested. Would that be okay? The woman thought about it for a moment, then nodded. As long as we are communicating it to customers, I think we're okay with that. Okay, I understand how it's really easy to make Elon look really bad based on that paragraph. But you also have to understand that in a company, you have other people, and Elon is just one person, and eventually Elon will have some thoughts or some ideas or some things that he will want to do that may not exactly follow every single rule. That's why you have other teams to make sure that you don't step over the boundary. But you, as the leader of a company, you need to push and lead the company. And with that push, the pop-up idea came around, which will later protect Tesla. Am I defending what Elon said earlier to basically collect data without people knowing about it? I'm not defending him here. But what Elon is doing here is he has this idea, okay, if we can use these cameras, then of course that would help Tesla. So can we use them? And then a solution was here, yeah, okay, we'll create this pop-up and then people will agree to the terms and conditions and then it's going to be fine. Here's the pop-up. Continuously improve the intelligence of features that rely on the cabin camera. When cabin camera analytics are enabled, cabin camera data will be shared with Tesla if a vehicle experiences a safety critical event like a collision. Data may also be shared if cabin camera functionality requires diagnostics to perform. This data includes short cabin camera video clips to help us further develop future safety features and software enhancements such as collision avoidance updates and more. We want to be very clear that to protect your privacy, cabin camera data will not be associated with your vehicle identification number. Do you agree to allow us to collect this data? I checked no. I have a choice. And I choose no. If you want to choose no, you can. It's no problem. Electric concludes here, but at the very least, this language in current Teslas does suggest that Musk did not get his wish. Perhaps to the relief of some of the more privacy-interested Tesla drivers. Elon wanted to do something, then he realized he can't do it, and then he followed what he is supposed to do. And supposedly, that's a problem because he followed what he was supposed to do. Imagine this scenario. You're running a company, and you are in a meeting with your accountants, and you say, guys, I want to pay no tax. Your accountants say, you can't do that. And then you say, okay, can we just pay maybe less, or how much do we need to pay? Well, you need to pay this much. Okay, we'll pay this much then. The government comes after you and says, oh, at one point you said you don't want to pay any tax, even though you pay tax, but we're gonna go after you anyway. Just to be very clear, I don't like the idea of collecting data from someone without their permission. I'm heavily, very strongly against that. But I don't think this whole thing was about Elon protecting his ego. He just simply wanted to fight against unfair accusations. And while I do not agree with this, I can understand how in an unfair fight, you may also want to fight unfairly. I can understand that temptation. I disagree with the desire to want to collect that data without consent, But I understand that temptation. And in the end, Elon followed what he was supposed to follow. Great news for Tesla, bad news for Mercedes. Mercedes is reportedly pausing EV production at 2 of its plants in Beijing, China, due to sluggish sales and inventory buildup. All German brands have problems competing with local Chinese competitors. Not a good sign for their EV programs. I think when people said competition is coming, what they really meant was that these new EV companies are coming for these old legacy auto companies. There's this rumor that the new Tesla Model 3 is expected to arrive at Tesla stores within 5 days. That's within China, starting with Shanghai, which could indicate that Tesla perhaps will have some deliveries locally within China instead of just exporting all of the Model 3s. However, Roland pours some cold water on this whole situation. Model 3 Highland got its permit to be sold in China on September 12th. And before, for Tesla, it took at least 34 days from the time they got the permit to the first delivery. So I assume this is going to be faster this time, but by how much is the question. I think Q3 is going to be a relatively weak quarter, but Q4 in terms of deliveries is going to be pretty good. Slowly but surely, Tesla has mostly eliminated quarterly delivery wave in Europe. Last year in Q2, only 12% of Tesla deliveries in Europe happened in the first 2 months of the quarter, but this year in Q2, it increased to 48%, and in Q3, Troy says it is expected to be over 55%. This will decrease Tesla's costs and will increase margins, or Tesla will be able to cut prices without affecting the margins. Biden said on Friday he's sending top aides to Detroit to help with the auto strike. Record corporate profits should be shared by record contracts for the UAW, he said. Maybe he will assure the Ford CEO and GM CEO and Stellantis CEO that if they do go bankrupt, then well, just don't worry, we're just gonna bail you out. In the meantime, Ford just laid off 600 employees at its Michigan assembly plant. Relatively speaking, only a small portion of all the workers are currently on strike. And because you have some people on strike which provide basically parts and other things for other people to then work on, naturally, some of these other people are no longer needed. This whole strike certainly hurts Ford and GM, but it also will hurt some employees because some of them will be laid off. So the only clear winner here really is Tesla. Troy gave us a pretty good update about Tesla's gigacasting situation. Model S's and X's, they have castings both in the front and the rear, but each casting in the rear, for example, has 2 pieces, not just one. The Model Y nowhere currently gets any gigacastings. And then Model Y, in the front in Fremont, there's no gigacasting, but it has one in the rear, and it's only 1 piece. And then in Giga Shanghai, there's no front either, but it's in the rear, same as in Fremont. But in Giga Texas and Giga Berlin, both front and the back use 1-piece castings. I wonder if the refreshed Model Y next year will have both castings in the front and rear. Troy says the next step from here would be to design a Model 3 Highland version with dual casting so that Giga Texas and Giga Berlin can produce it on the current Model Y production line. I saw someone say that that's the main reason why Tesla is not planning to make a refreshed Model 3 in Berlin right now. It's because the lines are designed to build a car with castings, but the refreshed Model 3 does not have any castings. Also, Reuters is reporting that GM told some 2,000 workers at a Kansas car plant that their factory likely would be shut down next week for lack of parts stemming from a nearby Missouri plant being struck. Here's a response from the union. Their plan won't work. Will organize 1 day longer than they can and go the distance to win economic and social justice at the Big 3. Here's a post from Reddit which confirms that the Cybertruck can fit through a drive-thru without any issues. Well, at least a Chick-fil-A drive-thru is no problem. If you refer someone to buy a Tesla vehicle, you will earn these credits. And now you can redeem these credits for a factory tour. You can choose between Fremont, Austin, or now it also includes Giga Berlin. So these guys parked here and they didn't realize that you can't park in there after hours. Well, you have to get your car before the parking lot closes. But with Smart Summon, they were able to summon the car and to trigger the gate to open anyway. That's one use case of Smart Summon that you probably wouldn't really think of, but it came in really handy. Here's some pretty good news about the Tesla Semi. PepsiCo's Tesla number 3 just did 1,600 miles in a little less than 48 hours. These are all beverage trucks with foolish loads and minimal empty running. We didn't know about that before, now we know, and this is really the good part. Considering the release data, more to come, the Semi indeed achieved an efficiency of about 2 kilowatt hours per mile. We are tracking the beverage. It is impressive. A fairly heavy haul at nearly 80,000 pounds. It goes to one location and drops off soda, but maybe picks up some waters, goes to another location to drop off waters, but picks up Gatorade. We don't really know the payload, but NACFE has verified that these are fairly fully loaded when they leave and stay fairly loaded. They are not all their gaming run on less. So these things are running heavy, no chips, and rarely empty. All efficiency numbers should be understood in that light. That run yesterday is with less beverages than if it was a diesel truck, but not much less. And there's some speculation here that probably it's maybe 1 or 2 tons less when including the extra 1 ton allowance that electrics get. Overall, this is really good news, and this sounds pretty bullish for the Tesla Semi. There's a positive story about Tesla in the mainstream media. I know, it's surprising, but the UAW strike isn't the biggest problem facing the automakers. Instead, it's that their enormous bet on electric vehicles still shows few signs of paying off. The problem is, most of the rewards are flowing to just one company: Tesla. This is good news to us Tesla stock investors, I would say. Elon's biography is now available on a major Chinese music app, and it is successful. The screenshot shows over 420,000 people listening to it at one moment simultaneously. There are many Elon fans in China, says Ray, including some of my friends there, and they proudly post online pictures of the copies of the biography they received. And later, it got to 470,000 listeners. The interesting part is that the part about the fight for free speech is in the book, and the Chinese people are listening to the book, they are reading the book. This is quite surprising to me that the government over there would allow that to be published unedited. Anyway, this book being successful in China, I think overall is great for Tesla because it will probably sell more Teslas. There is some very inaccurate reporting going around. Tesla CEO Elon Musk temporarily removed UAW's Twitter verification following the strike. So he explains, Elon Musk didn't do anything. When you change your profile pic on X, you are shown a clear message. Your blue check mark will be hidden for a period of time after you edit your display name or profile photo until it is reviewed. This is actually pretty good news for us Tesla stock investors. So this week I had my first major issue with my Tesla. My driver's side daytime running light stopped working. I was worried that dealing with this was going to be a major hassle. Here's what happened. I opened up my app, tapped service, selected my issue, and uploaded a photo. Fast forward to Wednesday, Tesla mobile service came to my home. I met the technician outside. He swapped the entire headlight assembly and wrapped up within an hour. I didn't even stick around. He did all the work and locked up without me. Under warranty, so it was $0. Mobile service was fantastic. Setup and tracking in-app was perfect. I know some people like to complain about Tesla service, but the reality is it's getting a lot better. If you remember a little while ago, Elon tweeted about working on Tesla service and incorporating some of the principles from Formula One to Tesla service. And now we are starting to see stories like this where people are really happy with the service. I had one experience with Tesla service so far where the technician came to us basically, and it was so easy. It was much better than going to any dealership. So just for that one reason, actually, I much rather prefer owning a Tesla than any other vehicle, because other car brands make me go to their dealership, and it's always a pain going there. Quite often down in the comments, I see people asking, is Tesla stock going up or down, up or down, up or down? Well, I'm working on a video right now about Tesla stock going up versus down, where I will list my relatively detailed thoughts, and that video is going to be published maybe today or possibly tomorrow, either today or tomorrow, and it will be exclusively available on Patreon. You may click the link down below in the pinned comment to join. You'll also get my Tesla valuation model. The model comes with all of my assumptions that produce Tesla stock prices that I'm willing to pay each year for Tesla stock from 2023 all the way to 2033. And on top of that, you will really help this channel. YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching this Elon Musk interview, watch this one first. My name is Matt Posius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.